board or what your role is, that'd be great.
Okay, I work at the SAU. I'm Linda Sherwood. I'm the Director of Business Operations.
I'm Johanna, and I'm on the Brookline School Board, and I just started in March. So.
What a chair.
I'm Colleen Mikovich. I'm on the Brookline School Board.
Kate Stoll, Co-op School Board.
Cindy Van Kona, Co-op School Board.
Holly Durlow Babcock, Co-op School Board.
Allison Mannion, Brookline School Board.
Tom Solon, Co-op School Board.
Beth Williams, Co-op School Board.
Gina Berkshire, Assistant Superintendent.
Andy Corey, Superintendent.
Tracy Perry, Brookline School Board.
Anne Wade Pasquale, Hollis School Board Secretary.
Krista Whalen, Co-op School Board.
Kelly Zacher, Brookline School Board.
Jessica Hens, I'm new to the Hollis School Board.
Michelle Lawler, Hollis School Board.
Rafi Zach, Hollis School Board.
Excellent. Thank you all and welcome. I'm sure we'll get to know faces as we go through. Our first order of business tonight is to elect an SAU board chair. Very shortly, I will call for nominations. Once we have a nomination, I will ask if there's a second. If there's a second, I will ask for discussion. Once discussion is concluded, we will vote on that candidate. If that candidate secures the majority vote, that individual will take over as the SAU chair and take over the meeting at that point. He or she will then do the same process for a vice chair and a secretary. The other piece we will need tonight is we will just need to know who will be the signers of the manifest, because we have that process to go through. I think most of you realize that from our local boards, and we need to do that here as well. And then other committees' appointments will be at the discretion of the chair. Typically, we do that when we get to our fall meeting, after he or she has had time to go through that. Are there any questions about the process? Seeing none, I'll open the floor for nominations for chair of the SAU School Board.
I'd like to nominate Tom Solon.
Okay.
I'll second.
Oh.
I was going to do the nomination, but she beat me to it, so it's okay.
I have a nomination and a second. Is there any discussion?
Tom's done a great job this year. I'd love to see him continue for another year.
Excellent.
I think for consistency's sake, and I appreciate the leadership that he has worked with this board so far, I'd like to see that continue.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? I'm not gonna let Tom talk. It's all yours, Tom, and you can take over for the vice chair.
Okay. Thank you very much for your vote of confidence and punishment. I will accept the nominations for the role of vice chair. Just to be clear, the vice chair serves as chair in my absence and also heads up the SPEC, which is the Superintendent Performance Evaluation Committee.
I'd like to nominate Carol Lloyd. I know she's not here, and that's why I want to nominate her. No. She agreed to be nominated, and I think for the SPEC committee, I think that is something that we need a little consistency with. It helps because it's a process, and you have to learn it. And I think I'd love to have her back in that role.
I second that.
Do you prefer to do it one at a time or see if there are any other nominations? Do you have a preference?
If Carol's was received favorably, it would be done.
Okay. So we've got the nomination and second. All those in favor of Carol Roy for the position of assistant chair, or vice chair, chair of vice. Is that, all opposed? Unanimous. Can I now defer to Carol?
No?
Let's see. How does she spell her name? A-R-Y?
C-A-R-R-Y-L.
2 R's?
And R-O-Y is the last name.
You
got that part.
I was
Oh,
gonna-
okay, just checking.
The next position we're looking to fill is the position of treasurer. The primary role of the treasurer is to head up the SAU Governing Board's Budget Committee. It's a little bit of a different role than the Budget Committee on the district boards, but the impact is the same, generating the budget and ideally presenting that budget at the budget hearing in December and potentially making presentations where appropriate at district meetings. Do we have any nominations for treasurer? Is Rob here?
Who did it? He's coming late. Who did, was Rob last
yeah.
year?
Is there anyone who would like it? Self-nominations are welcome. It is an interesting role. It's a very important role, and it's not overly time-consuming compared to some of the other things that people sign up for.
Should I text him to see if he wants to do it?
Wow.
I mean, if
Being-
someone else wants to do it.
Being not here, we
Being not here.
can nominate him, but I don't wanna block it off if someone would
Right.
like to step up and take that role.
Okay, I'm waiting to see people jump up.
Who, just out of curiosity, who has already been nominated by their board to be on that budget, the SAU Governing Board Budget Committee, do we know?
Oh, it's Allison.
That'd be me,
Have you?
right?
Yeah.
Technically?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Allison,
technically, yes. I was part of it last year. So I will say this, if he's willing to be the primary, if people would agree, I would be interested in working alongside him this year to kind of really learn that position and role, so that should he not be interested in it in the following year, there's a little bit more awareness. I don't know that I'd be comfortable taking it on this year to the idea of presenting to town. It's a little overwhelming sometimes, but I'd be interested in like working closely alongside if the board is agreeable to. I know it's a singular position,
Well,
but
from that standpoint, I don't think there needs to be any formality of that. It's just a
Okay.
question of whether or not you would like to take the official role and have strong support
this
in
year.
doing so.
not this year. But
Okay.
I'd be interested in learning it and shadowing for maybe future years.
So, subject to his
Nominate Rob.
later acceptance. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So Krista nominated Rob Mann. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kate Stoll. Hearing no other people jumping at it. All those in favor of Rob Mann? All those opposed? Oh, I see. No.
So this is why you come.
Yeah. Okay.
You were last year,
It's
too. He was.
it's unanimous for Rob. And I will check in with him to see if he's okay with it. And then the final position is that of secretary. The main function of the secretary is to record the ongoing activities primarily during non-public sessions. We have a professional recording secretary who monitors the feeds and all that, and is very, very helpful in preparing documents to lead you through it, but cannot attend during non-public sessions. We really like to have new board members as the role of secretary for a couple of reasons. One is because they don't know what they're in for, but the main one is it's a really good way to learn process, procedure, and documentation, get a lot of help. Are there any nominations?
Can I just add
Yeah.
to one thing to that? The secretary also manages the voting calculator during meetings. So if that, you have to download that and work with that sometimes if there's a reason to
Yeah,
run the voting
it's
calculator.
sent out
It's
in
easy.
the prep material for every meeting.
But you just have to bring your laptop. You have to make sure you have it in front of you.
Yeah, or else then you say, I don't have it, and you make somebody else do it.
Yeah, that's happened.
That's never happened. Any nominations for secretary? And remember, someone can nominate somebody else. Come on, folks.
Okay, I have a question. How hard is this voting calc, because math is not my.
Oh, no, it does it all for you. You just,
Plug
it's
in
a
the numbers.
spreadsheet that you just
Okay.
plug
Like
in.
there's
That's
3
fine.
members from this board and 5 members from that board
Okay.
and 2 members from another
It's not
board.
hard. It's not
And
hard.
Okay.
Johanna, I can tell you,
in the last year that I've been secretary, I've never had to use it.
Oh,
We
great.
use it very infrequently. It's only if there's a close vote, because we have 5 members here, 5 members there, 7. So there's a calculation that has to happen.
Alright,
So
then
I think
yes,
it's,
I would be willing, Allison, because I see you looking at me, as long as people will answer my questions.
we won't help you at all.
Then I'll nominate Johanna for secretary.
I second that.
Okay.
You're welcome, don't hate me.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much for volunteering. And you'll get a lot of help. The key is to sit next to somebody who has a clue, which is often, there's a handful of people, and they guide you through it.
Johanna, I can
Okay,
help you.
great.
Okay, cool. You'll be fine.
I'll be good. From all the way over.
Thank you, everyone, for stepping up, even if it was unintentional. Do you want to go into non-public before I appoint process observer?
I'd like to just do the manifest for Linda,
Okay.
the signs of the manifest.
How many do
3,
we
Linda?
need?
We need 2 and an alternate.
Right.
2 from the SAU?
2 from this group
Oh.
and 1 alternate.
Okay. What we're looking for are people who can sign the manifest. Linda, do you want to describe a little bit about what your process is?
Sure, and Kate has been doing it for the current year, so she could answer questions too, but we will send out emails every 2 weeks with our manifest of our checks that we pay through accounts payable. And the approver would look at it electronically and then approve it. It is timely, so when we send the email, we like a response within 48 hours because we have to wait for approval before we can mail the checks. And the checks are what pay our bills, so we don't like to be late. So it is every 2 weeks, it's timely, it's electronic. You can come into the SAU if you'd like and look at things in person. It's your choice, but what we send you is a complete list of not just the check, but the amount and what it's for, and Kate can describe the document more, but you have all the details you need if you choose not to come into the SAU. It's not including payroll because payroll is contractual.
And just again, similar to the secretary job, I have done it a few times, especially early on. It's an incredible peek into what goes on running the SAU. It's amazing to see what goes in and comes out of the business office. It can be both eye-opening and enlightening. I really encourage anyone who hasn't done it to take a shot at it. It's not a high-risk kind of thing, and it's not overly time-consuming, but it is a real valuable experience. Yeah,
I have a
Colin?
nomination, Allison Mannion.
I don't think, isn't this
So
just,
it's an
this is an
appointment, I
appointment?
just want to know if anyone
Right.
wants to do it.
Oh, it's not a nomination? Oh,
Yeah, it's
well,
just a
Okay.
who wants to
Oh.
do it kind
No,
of thing.
yeah, I was
I'm not-
alternate last
I'm
year, I
not
would like to do
volunteering.
it.
Yeah.
So we've got one, we need 2 and an alternate, and the alternate is if someone's out of town or something.
I'll do it too.
Cindy,
I can be an alternate.
sorry, your name?
Jess Lahens.
Thank you. Did, you
Allison?
get those? So
No, can you say that again?
So Allison and Cindy are the official
Signers. Signers.
appointees,
Okay.
and
Jessica Lahens.
Jessica is the alternate.
Thank you.
Now, do you send out the same document? Is it one document for all of them, or do you send it out individually based on the districts and the SAU?
So the 3 you're appointing here would be just looking at the SAU central office accounts payable, not Brookline, Hollis, or Co-op. So
So they will only get SAU stuff?
you will only see SAU, and it will come from Liz Murphy.
Okay. And then that's to your SAU email.
Yes.
Great. Nothing else that you need?
No, I think next would just be to go to non-public.
Okay. So now, I'm just trying to figure out where we were. I'm just wondering, are there any further agenda adjustments before we go into non-public so that people know anything strange coming up?
The only agenda adjustment is I'm gonna request an addition of a business office memo for
Okay.
this year's budget,
Okay, so.
but that's at the very end.
Okay.
Yep.
And we are looking for a motion to go into non-public under, is this strictly compensation, is it A and C or just A?
No, we're discussing people, so it's
Okay.
reputation too.
Looking for a motion to enter non-public session by roll call under RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, sections A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, and C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
I'll second.
We have no-
So moved. No, I was deferring to Kelly to let her
Okay.
make motion.
Motion by Beth, second by Kelly. We have to go into this by roll call vote. Start at this end.
Johanna Schreiber Halligan, yes.
Colleen Mikovich, yes.
Kate, aye.
Cindy, I.
Holly, I.
Allison, I.
Tom, aye.
Beth, I.
Oh, Tracy, I.
And I.
Krista, I.
Kelly, I.
Jess, aye.
Michelle, I.
Raphael, aye.
Okay,
Thank
Joe, if you can shut us down, Joe, and then Linda and Joe.
We are Resuming the public portion of our meeting at 8:13, I would, I had written on my sheet what time. Oh, I can make note that Beth Williams had to depart at 7:42 PM.
Yeah.
At this point, I need to appoint a process observer. Anyone want to volunteer for that joyous job?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Holly. Do you want to skip all the other appointments at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agenda adjustments, you said?
Yes, I have one, I'm gonna pass around, it's coming around now on this side, an office from, a memo from our business office regarding, potential use of the unreserved fund balance, so I'd like to add a deliberative item, number 6, regarding this memo, and I'll explain it when we get to that point, if we make the agenda adjustment, and here's a bunch to go that way.
Is it discussion or deliberation?
Deliberation, number 6.
I'm going to do this in the negative. Is anyone opposed, is there anyone opposed to adding this deliberative item? Seeing no objection, we'll make the change as requested. Thank you. We have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve. The first is the public minutes. Oh, excuse me, any nominations, resignations, or correspondence?
No, well said.
Okay, so we have public meeting minutes from February 15th. Members absent, Mannion, Mikovich, Van Conen, and Pasquale, Beth Williams, and all of the
New members.
So who does that leave who can vote? I'm gonna leave it up to you folks to figure out if you're allowed to vote, because I can't keep track of the count. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the public minutes of February 15th with the sole change of replacing the word updated with the word update on page 2, line 19, which is describing what Superintendent Corey gave.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kate, second by Rob. Is there any discussion? Do I need to do this by, I don't think.
I think you can, you
Yep.
can just, because I think everybody who doesn't vote should abstain, so I don't think you need to do the
Is there
voting
anyone who
calculator.
questions their status of how they get the vote? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? None, and abstentions? Lots and lots. There's 8 abstentions.
Should be, oh, yep, 8,
'Cause
because
Beth's not
Williams
here.
is not here, yep.
Okay. And then we have the non-public meeting minutes. That was the superintendent review. They were sealed until the next meeting, so by Dawn's summary, they are no longer sealed anyway, so we don't have to vote to unseal them. What we need to do is vote to approve them, and it looks like the same group.
They're not in
Okay.
the minutes.
Pardon me? No, they weren't there because they couldn't be distributed before the meeting.
Right.
I don't know if it's necessary. Holly did review them for me in the SAU office, and they said very little, but one thing that they talked about the vote on the bonus, but not the salary, I believe
Right.
was a question. And I don't know that that was intentional. Is it necessary to amend them to include the salary that was approved, do you think? Do you think it matters at this point? I mean, is there any other record?
When you approve the list tonight, you'll, for the second time, have my number on it.
Okay, so we're okay there.
Yep.
Just leave the minutes as. that.
Yep.
So I'd like a motion to approve the non-public minutes from February 15th as written.
So moved.
Moved by Kate,
Second.
second by
Second.
Krista.
She's gonna start
You wanna know the
standing up.
truth? You and Ann have similar sounding voices to me, so when I hear it, I have to look over to see who's making fun of me. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the non-public minutes? Okay, is that six? Did I count six?
1, 2, 3, 4,
Seven?
5, 6, 7. 7.
Yes. All those opposed? Abstentions?
And there's 7
Yep,
of
and
those.
8.
Oh, 8 of those, so.
Okay. We're all good on that? Thank you. Appreciate your patience. Let's see. So now we get to open the floor for public input. And we are required, is this a board meeting?
Yeah, we're required to keep it open for half an hour.
I didn't know if a governing board followed the same rules. We're required to keep the public input session open for 30 minutes. Opening to the public at 8:20. We'll be closing again at 8:50. If anyone out in radio land wants to come in and talk to us, you have 30 minutes to do so.
To show up.
Yeah. Well,
And
to
wait
do
in
so,
line.
I can stop it at 30 minutes.
Right, but you might decide that you might want them to
I could
speak
extend it.
You
I
can
could
extend it,
extend it,
right.
yeah.
But they have to show up within the next 30 minutes.
Correct. Now we'll move on to discussion. The first item of discussion is to review the short and long form of the evaluation, determine if any sections should be revised or revisited. Is there anyone that wants to lead that discussion?
The only thing I would add is that I know we've received some input from some of the members that certain aspects of this, I believe we've been using the short form mostly, that there's some aspects or sections that board members have little visibility to. And I think over the past couple cycles, some members haven't even filled in some of that. Others may have, but I know some haven't, because they just felt that they were ill-equipped to really make a decision on any of that. I don't have the sections in front of me right now. I think it's mostly a relationship with
Administration.
with the administration, because we don't usually know those details.
Right, I think, typically what happens is the individual boards, spec committee representatives try to meet with, building principals and staff to get a sense.
So I'm wondering if at the very least, we reserve that section for the spec committee and kind of relieve the regular members from really providing input there.
The only thing I would say, Rob, is in the past, there have been individual board members who have particularly strong feelings about that aspect of it. I thought in previous discussion, the idea was leave it in, but let people know it's perfectly acceptable to opt out of answering it. Prompt it in case there is input, but don't make people feel compelled to.
So I wonder, so in In evaluations that I've filled out in my professional role, when you're evaluating a team member and you haven't observed that, there's an option to select not observed.
think we saw
So you're not leaving it blank.
Oh, okay.
You're not leaving it blank, so it's not like a negative number, but you're saying, so, you know, if there's a 5-item Likert scale, whatever, you're choosing 6, not observed. So it's not sort of like you're just voting at the top of the ballot and, you know, ignoring the down races, but you're giving an option to say, I can't assess that because I haven't observed it.
We do have that intended category, but it's not articulated as not observed. I think, is it NA or?
And they,
I think it's NA. I like the not observed.
Yeah.
Because it's specific.
Right, it just says like, I can't,
Right,
yeah.
right. Do you view that as being a clarification, changing the word of what we have there, or an additional category?
I would say it's more of a clarification, because we would be getting rid of the NA and replacing it with not observed. Well,
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Just procedurally, what we're doing here is collecting some input that will be used by the to-be-formed policy committee, who will have the
Oh, hey, I'm on that.
the authority to make these recommended changes and bring them back for approval at the next meeting.
So can I just piggyback on that?
Yep.
I think the short form is fine with that change.
Yeah.
I agree with you on all that. However, I really think that this is the year for the policy committee to dig into the long form, because I think potentially we may be using the long form next year, and I don't wanna be caught in when we vote on that, which is
When you
next
say
May.
next year, what,
I mean, when Gina is superintendent, I think there's a potential.
so not this
that-
December, but a year from
Right, so
December?
tonight, we're gonna vote on whether or not to use the long or the short form. That's what we do in May. We decide whether the evaluation is gonna be the long or the short form. The long form was developed when our superintendent was brand new, because we wanted to gather more information. And then eventually we moved to the short form because after a
was
few years, we
redundant,
didn't need to
yeah.
do that. So, we'll make that decision this year for what we'll use next year to evaluate our current superintendent. But next May, we will have the same decision to make, and I would hate to have that just be the long form as it exists right
As
now
it
without
exists
any
now.
review, because I was on the school board when we first put this whole thing in, it was my first year, and that long form was overwhelming for a brand new board member or for someone who doesn't have, it was a lot of information that speaks to what Rob was saying, like, I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of I don't know. So that long form is long, and to be honest, as a chair, gathering people to complete the short form is hard enough. So I think the policy committee would be wise to take time this year to revise and kind of chop at that form a little bit. Also, Andy guided the current evaluation process with his expertise during the time that he was, when he came in, he helped develop it. And so, having been the person who's been through it, it might be really helpful to have him still on board for the policy committee to kind of go like, why did we put this in there? Why was it there? So that's my recommendation.
I can also tell you, compiling, as chair, compiling the long form, I did it 2 years in a row. It was huge amount of work.
yeah.
Because you're talking about hundreds of responses when
Right,
you put it
right.
across X amount of people and how many items are in that long form.
Right.
It's
And next-
Just a
overwhelming.
question for you, Rob. When you were doing it, had it been put into the electronic format that's currently being used?
I
'Cause
think
was
the
t-
first year it wasn't, the following year it was. I think Matt McGuire did a great job getting it, turning it.
And
making
Ann,
it
Ann,
electric.
I think, has further refined it, although we haven't had to use it. So I think.
Just one more thing. I
yeah.
just also want to say, that doesn't mean that in May of 2025, we will definitely vote for the long form. We may decide as a board that we still like the short form.
Right.
But the long form as it exists now should be revised.
I'm not
In my
sure that
opinion.
our policy allows us to use that in the first
Oh,
couple
okay.
years.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
you have to use
sorry.
the long form
So
first
we
couple
have to
years.
use it, so we should definitely have the policy
Unless we
committee
change that
take a look at it.
policy,
Yeah.
but-
Or change the policy, right? That's just my take.
What are you
We,
pointing at?
we might wanna think about that.
Huh?
Need to speak.
Oh, okay. I thought you were putting.
No, no. I just want to make a recommendation. I think as the board is aware, I don't see any value of doing an evaluation next spring on me as I'll be walking out the door. So I would suggest using the countless hours that we spend on this to work on the new document, and I'd be happy to assist because I did construct it and get it ready. And what I'd rather see the board, or what I would recommend to the board, is that working together as a board and the outgoing superintendent, we kind of come together on the transition plan, which you're gonna look at a little bit for input. So that way the incoming superintendent knows exactly what the expectations are for the position, and then we can make sure we align the expectations with the long form. So I think this is something we can absolutely do. My recommendation would be to put it back into policy, and then I would get together with policy and we'd bring you something in September.
Love it. This is just a discussion at this point.
Right, it's not deliberative, right, it's just,
One thing that I would like to do, and I'm not sure where it is, maybe Cindy can help me on this one, but we found out that the procedures associated with the process take some things for granted, and we need to break out some of the steps, particularly helping board chairs understand the roles that they play in collecting information, and members of the spec committee, how they review it. So I think we want to get a hold of that. What I'm wondering is whether the district board chairs are willing and feel comfortable with having a session with their own board prior to December, perhaps the summer when there's some time for it, to review the process, get out the form, and go through it with your board and see what questions exist, so that next time we meet, everyone will have had a chance to look at it and understand what's going to be asked of them, what they might want to provide to input to the committee that is doing this update. Does that make sense? So
Sure.
Are you willing to
Especially-
do it?
Especially for those boards that have a large amount of new members, right?
Well, there's that, but there's also the ones that have a lot of experience and have lived with the pains and might want to collect. So rather than relying solely on this policy committee to remember what they've heard over the years, let's give them some actual real-time input. Does that make sense? Who are the various, you,
I'm on policy.
no, who's the board chair for
Carol,
Brookline?
she's not.
Carol's not here.
Oh,
Colleen's there.
and Carol is.
Yep, Carol's missing.
So, could someone relay that to Carol, please?
so you want that to be on an agenda item for the summer, fall, okay?
It has to be summer, just remember, you only have 4 meetings, and you're out,
No, this
if
would
you
be-
wanna do it in May, then that means you have October and December to get a
No, I'm
policy.
No, but
talking
approved.
it would be done, we would have an agenda item at our board
co-op.
meeting.
Right.
For the co-op, so it
But
has
not
to be
fall
done,
though, because you would have to be almost over the summer.
yeah.
Well, the
So
only
that
thing
it
is,
could
what
get passed
Andy's
on.
proposing that we're not actually going to be doing a review this year. So,
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
we
with
wanna have that
trying to get
input.
policy passed in 4 meetings is very difficult with this group.
we
It
wanna,
always has
we
been.
wanna have that input to the policy committee as early as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
So are you talking about CBIR, the process?
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that says CBI, I think it's F.
I haven't looked at it in a while, but
So
in
ours, the
talking with
process,
Carol,
yeah.
she didn't realize that some of the logistics of collecting information from SAU administration, for example.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when I joined the spec committee was 2 years ago, and it sort of, I think, was interpreted as the chairs will facilitate and the chairs will do, was sort of interpreted as the chairs may delegate. And so I think it's probably been 2 cycles, maybe, since the Brookline chair has been involved at the level that the Hollis and the co-op chairs have been at. So I think, you know, Colleen and I can certainly work together, and Colleen was on the spec committee 2 years ago as well, so when we first started together, we were
So
on
the
together.
chair's automatically on the spec committee
we
unless
have-
they assign a designee. And once they assign the designee becomes the spec committee rep.
Okay.
And that person is supposed to do what the role of the spec committee is. So I assigned Cindy. This year, you may have seen me because Cindy had some things she missed, so then I popped in to help her as
Okay.
like a secondary person, so.
Okay,
And
so I
Kelly, you're
guess
right, I
just,
apologize, I was on.
like,
It
we-
feels like so long ago.
I know, it feels like a
But
really
so
long
my
time ago.
we designated
Right.
you and Allison too. as a-
Right.
As
And
the
I-
people, right,
I
so
just
then you
have
don't,
two.
so then you don't have to be involved, it's them.
With
I
what?
don't mind being.
With the interviewing of like principals or all that.
But for
But
example.
it says like the chairs, so I guess this is a policy thing, so we can talk about it in policy committee, but it's just the chairs will facilitate consensus. The chairs will compile the evaluations into a single district, and so.
But that's the role.
It would be
So I'm
chairs
saying
or
that-
designee.
Right, so it doesn't say that, so I just wanna clarify that,
I
that
do
in
both,
Brookline, it's been
Yeah.
a designee and not the chair.
You know, and I would differentiate, brought up, between what you do as a spec committee member and what you do as a board chair.
Right.
So, for example, going to the spec meeting and perhaps doing some of the task work may be done by a designee, but you may still, as the board chair, choose to do the roll-up.
Yeah.
Because of the way you conduct your meetings. Each board has to figure out what makes sense for them. But that's one of the areas. The other thing is, I don't think it articulates right now that the SAU board chair or designee is responsible for collecting the administration input, the SAU level administration input. And I didn't remember that, and I wasn't even involved with the process, and I should have been last year, and I just spaced it.
So the policy committee just needs to kind of relook at all of that and then communicate it to the board so that we get the procedures
sure
put
all
in
the-
place.
all the
Yeah,
pieces
all
are
the
there.
pieces are put together. In the meantime, each board should add to their agenda a review of the evaluation so that we have any questions.
That's my recommendation.
Yep.
Obviously, it's up to each board how they do that.
I'm putting it down on my notes, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Just a clarification on something that was said a while ago, is that for the next year, it's required that the log form be used, and we would just be.
Sounds like it according
the
to our
new
policy.
For the first,
for a
for
new
new
superintendent.
superintendent, so.
Year one.
Okay.
Because, not this coming review season, but the following one after Andy has officially, become a vacationer. It will be the log form unless we go into policy and change that policy.
Okay.
I would like to see that be an option and
I
not a
agree.
requirement.
I agree.
Because there may be circumstances where it makes sense to continue using the long form and not be compelled to use the short form, and not be compelled to use the I'm messing it up.
I know what you're saying.
The long
Bob.
form.
Right,
I think part of it is,
And-
many people have never even seen the long form, so I think we gotta take a look at it and decide.
Well,
if we
it's
even need
certainly
it.
worth looking at it, discussing it, maybe modifying it, but, from a standpoint of the policy, I would like it, the board's option to do either one.
In any year?
In any year, in
Okay.
any year. But I like the fact that it's there and it's intended for brand-new superintendents. But I think this year, the next couple years coming, we have some circumstances that may make sense to use the short.
Well, we can look at, that's, if the policy committee wants to propose that, that's fine. And even if it is, we do, and we're gonna be doing this shortly, I hope, we have the ability each year to decide what form we're using. So even if it was made optional, you'd still have to make a conscious decision each year as to what
Yep.
form's gonna be used, so.
Yep.
we can- That's fine. Any other discussion about dealing with the evaluation? Which brings us to the second item of discussion, which is regarding the use of the long or short form for this upcoming year. And, we've heard a recommendation that we use neither. So, does anyone want to discuss that further? Is that gonna be
Yeah,
deliberation?
We'd have to make it a deliberation, we'd have to add to it.
I didn't know if it was in there.
Well, I mean, we could change the motion to be like, not to use either,
To waive
to waive them.
the.
Yeah, the deliberation is to
Evaluation.
see what action the board will take regarding which form
Right.
will be used during the
Yeah,
twenty.
so we have a deliberative item about it, we just would change the
Okay,
motion.
yeah, I just didn't know if we were gonna be deliberating on it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Back up, see if I can read this.
I mean, I
So the next
guess,
thing is the revenue and expense report.
Linda?
Oh, I apologize. At 8:40, I'm talking about numbers to you all who want to go home, so I'm going to make this as painless as I can. So our small and mighty SAU budget, you all are used to your school budgets much bigger, but we have a $2.3 million budget in SAU. So when I did this report last week, we were projecting a just slight balance, $383 savings, and the two big variances are in the business office line. You'll see there's a negative $12,000 over expense budget, and largely due to a temporary hire we had to make because of a vacancy. But I just want to take 30 seconds and put a story to that number, because it's not just about a temporary worker. We have a small group of people who run AP and payroll in the business office, and since November, we have been struggling to fill a particular position with turnover, and then a person coming back and then going to part-time, and we had a temporary worker, and then we had a person who came and didn't work out, so right now it's vacant. So for 8 months, we've been working on this situation, and I just wanted to say the staff in that little office has worked their behinds off and done an incredible job. Because when you hire a temporary person to do payroll in our complex environment with the union rules that we deal with, it's not trainable in a month. So you hire a temporary person to come on for 3 months, and by the end of the 3 months, they're doing maybe 30% of the job. The rest of that was falling on the other ladies in the office. We did it willingly, happily, no complaining. So I just wanted to take a minute to let the board know that I'm so proud of them.
Thank you.
On the flip side, on the benefit line, there is a surplus there of $14,800 that we're seeing a savings, and that really is entirely to the fact that the employer contribution rate for our business administrator changed categories this year. So the employer was contributing about 20%, and that has changed now to 13.5%. So that's a significant savings that we're enjoying in the benefit line.
That's where we voted on changing the title.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, so expense-wise, we are showing,
Excuse me, before you, what was the student services? Is that anything in particular, the 6,500?
that is the 3-year course that our Director of Student Services is taking, and the course will end in FY '25. So that $6,500 was partially that, and partially we had to have some additional administrator work come in from another building to do what I don't know was in special ed. I don't know if,
Handle workload?
yeah. So that's what that number's coming from.
Thank you.
So when I did this last week, we were showing total expense of a little, almost exactly on budget. It was very exciting. For 1 minute in time, I thought, my God, we're doing this great, $383. And then now we have this memo from the business administrator that Superintendent Corey will go over later, showing that probably won't be as nice and neat, and we'll have probably more expenses coming. So, on the revenue side, really, revenue is pretty easy to predict in SAU because we don't get much revenue other than the tax assessments. The miscellaneous line there, the $6,000, that is bank interest, which is not budgeted. So that's where we're showing a surplus there. And the bottom line is that we're showing a net income of $161. You can't get much tighter than that. Our beginning fund balance of $309,169. If we add that 161 to that, and then plus the last year's carryover from our audit, $8,677, gives us an ending fund balance of $318,007, which is 14% of our adopted budget. And just a reminder, we like our target range to be 7 to 10%. And so I think this is a good segue if Superintendent Corey wanted to talk about the business memo at this time.
Just to make sure I understand, so at 7% it would be half of that, right? Because we're at 14%?
Yeah. Right.
So we want it to be at least 160,000?
Mhm.
Is that number?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Is that?
So
all your-
that's all I was gonna say unless there's any questions. And then I didn't know when the memo is gonna be talked about.
Deliberative.
Oh, I see, okay. So yeah, so if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay.
I didn't follow how you got from 6,000 to 6,383.
Sure. Okay, let me explain that. So the $6,383 is simply the $383 expense balance with the $6,000 revenue balance, so that's very
Right
straightforward.
above. I see it now.
But then we drop down to this net income of only 161. The difference there is the extra salary that was added to, let me back up. If you look up at the expense portion, you'll see at the top, it's called, I can't see everything on my screen, budget/board approved. So that total expense, $2,274,000, that includes an additional salary increase that the board gave the superintendent of $6,200. So the difference, to answer your question directly then, the net income of 161 is the 6,383 less the $6,200 adjustment to the superintendent's salary.
Yeah, I was mostly looking at the revenue line, the balance, and I didn't see it there. So
Oh, okay.
That's what confused me a little bit.
And do you need Linda here for anything else?
No, Linda can head out if she'd like.
Oh, I might as well just stay for the party at this point, so, but thank you.
Wait, I know, I was like,
Yeah.
what do you know that we don't know?
Okay, zooming right along, strategic plan.
Okay, I'm not gonna take a ton of time because I have been going over this at the individual board meetings as well. We are in the midst of going from draft form to probably final draft by this coming school year for our strategic plan. It's presently listed from 23 to 28 to encompass the year of planning that we've done, as well as when it will end. This plan has been worked on by Rick Barnes. If you don't know Rick used to be our high school principal. He's now working in another district, but for a year, he had opened up his own consulting business, and Rick and I are doing this together. It was very interesting. I was at a recent superintendent meeting, and strategic plan costs are running somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000. Right now, Rick and I have put this together at about $7,000. And we'll be finished probably staying under the $10,000. It's something that Rick wanted to get into, and it's something that my background is part of. As you go through it, and I'm not gonna go through it, you'll see there are a lot of places where we have red ink that still tells you what we need to do or what we need to consider. We also are looking at a couple items regarding our climate and culture and what steps we can take to really see where we are after COVID as well as where we're heading over in the future. Gina has been regularly involved in anything related to curriculum. The document started with the faculty survey.